are you afraid of? This video will destroy her. She deserves it. I don't know. I'm scared of her, Camille. Stop it, you. What are you two whispering about? What secrets? Keep your nose out of it, Cindy. Go to class. And you, Rosie, think carefully. This is our chance. That's it. I gotta go. Mwah! And Camille jumped up and down the hallway. Hi, my name is Rosie. We were just arguing with my best friend Camille. It's all about our new class teacher, Mrs. Kindle, who's making life miserable for Camille and me. Please subscribe to the channel and I'll tell you what happened. And now listen to my story. She's been a real pain in the ass. At the beginning of the year, the principal announced that our beloved Miss Beverly was in the hospital and would be replaced by this Kindle. She didn't like me right away. I don't know why, but she was trying to make friends with the elite of the class. For example, Tyler was captain of the school basketball team, and he was always missing practice. But he often skipped class. Mrs. Kindle turned a blind eye. She also chatted sweetly at recess with our bitchy Cindy, who fancied herself queen of the class. Her company of self-righteous brats like herself could push you, kick your backpack, accidentally spill juice on your clothes. And more than once, our new homeroom teacher saw these incidents, but she didn't react, and it was awful.
Yes, indeed. Miss Beverly never allowed herself to ignore such behavior in class. She was always stopping Cindy.
Exactly. And now it's chaos. Kindle's friends with whoever's convenient, who have rich and powerful parents.
Are you girls talking about me, or am I just hearing things?
We turned pale and looked at Camilla. What a bad time for her to come up. From that day on, all hell broke loose for Camilla and me. Mrs. Kindle turned everyone in the class against us. I was persecuted for a used backpack from the thrift store. And Camille was brought to tears in the locker room by the girls giggling at her small breasts. Today, I froze in place when I saw my school locker. It was painted and smeared with some kind of paint. And not far away, Mrs. Kindle was standing there smirking. That was the last straw. Kami, this is unbearable. We're real outcasts. I can't take it anymore. We've got to make up with her. Otherwise, it will never end.
No way. She's just waiting for us to come crawling back on our knees to apologize. She won't.
But I was having enough trouble as it was. The other day, my parents announced to me that they were getting divorced. It was not news. Dad and Mom have long been just neighbors on the same living space. But recently, Mom accidentally saw a message on Dad's phone, clearly intimate nature, and decided to dot all the dots. So she filed for divorce. I had to get over it, and then there's the Kindle. I had to make it up to her, so I figured out a way. The school's website said Mrs. Kindle was into contemporary art, and I had an idea. After class, I knocked on the office, which had a shiny plaque with the name Kindle on it.
What do you want, Rose?
The teacher's tone was clearly not conducive to conversation. I walked over to her desk and held out a gift-wrapped book. Mrs. Kindle, I don't think our acquaintance with you is going well.
You're not just imagining it.
The teacher said, pointing at the book I was holding out to her.
And take your gift back.
It's a collection of works by contemporary artists. You're into art. Suddenly, the teacher grabbed the book and threw it into the trash can near the table.
Go away.
Already in the hallway, I exhaled. Is this really happening to me? That Kindle has lost her fear. I'm going to the principal right now. I've had enough humiliation. And within minutes, I was knocking on the principal's door. Mr. Wilson has always been very loyal to the students. That year, he let us come to school in costumes for Halloween, and it was a lot of fun. And recently, they opened up a rec room at the school for the older students. Everyone loved Mr. Wilson. But the principal didn't respond to my complaints. He rubbed his forehead lightly and said calmly,
Rosie, you're exaggerating. You better support Joanna. Mrs. Kindle. She's new to our school. It's hard for her. Be kinder to people.
I wish he'd slapped me. It would have been less painful and hurtful. Tears came to my eyes. But why is the principal defending that nasty teacher? I decided not to tell Camille about the incident, but Kindle started to get back at me really hard. She called me in every class and bombarded me with difficult questions. My grades dropped to 0. One night, my mom came into my room.
Rosie, what's going on? I got your grades from last month. It's terrible. Do you need help?
I couldn't take it anymore and told my mom everything, both about the bullying from the new teacher and my unfortunate conversation with the principal. Mom hugged me and promised to talk to Mrs. Kindle. But that darn woman knew her business. After the conversation at school, Mom came back irritated.
Rosie, you humiliated me. Why did you lie? Mrs. Kindle is a wonderful woman, and she's very worried about you. She says you've completely abandoned your studies.
That's not true.
I explained to her that our family is going through a bad time. But that doesn't give you the right to behave like that. Apologize to your teacher tomorrow.
That's it. There's nowhere to go, and I dread to think what Mrs. Kindle will do to me now. I'm afraid to go to school. For 2 days, I stayed home on my bed eating ice cream on a grand scale. But on Wednesday, my mom made me get dressed and took me to school. It was a day I will never forget. In the hallway, I ran into a crying Camille. She had a mop in her hands. Seeing the mute question in my eyes, Camille nodded towards the classroom.
Kindle came up with occupational therapy for me. She was sick of hearing all my protests. This is a nightmare!
I knew the teacher was taking it out on her best friend because of me. I'll help you.
I have 2 floors to clean. After school.
The 2 of us can do it faster. We hugged each other and hurried off to class. It was already dark outside, and we were still scrubbing the floors with Camille. My back was stiff from the experience. Let's take a break. I'm starving. There should still be a snack machine on the first floor. Let's go. So Camille and I went downstairs. It was quiet. We walked tiredly down the dark hallway. Suddenly, I heard some laughter. We froze. Maybe I imagined it. When we took a couple of steps forward, we saw a narrow strip of light. The door to the principal's office was half open, and from there came quiet voices. We slowly approached the door and opened our mouths in surprise. Mrs. Kindle sat relaxed in her chair with her head tilted playfully. We heard her whispering.
Listen, darling, I'm going to tell everyone that we're having an affair and that it was you who put me up to it. I hope you don't want any trouble. You'll lose everything you have.
With trembling hands, I turned on the camera on my phone and started filming. Thankfully, the door to the office completely concealed me.
Stop it, Joanna. No one will believe you, especially since the students are complaining about you. A couple more incidents like this and I'll have to fire you. I don't think that's what you want.
Suddenly, Mrs. Kindle jumped up and grabbed Principal Wilson by the scruff of the neck. Yeah, she was arguing with him in his office, and I was filming it on my phone.
What's the PTA going to do to you when they find out what you spent the money from the school fundraiser on? A 2-week vacation in the Bahamas and a 5-star hotel. Isn't that a little lavish, Mr. Wilson? Are you sure you want everyone to know about this? I don't think so. So you'll do whatever I say.
The scandal was escalating, and at any moment, someone could run out into the corridor and see me and Camilla. We've got to go. With quick steps, holding hands, we hurried back with my friend. An hour later, having cleaned the floors in absolute silence, we were walking home. I kept replaying in my head what I had seen in the principal's office. My phone seemed to be burning my pocket because of the video I'd caught today.
We have to publish it. That couple is screwing the whole school over.
I was silent and hesitant. In fact, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to consult. What if it turns out to be like that book again? They'll just punish me and Camille, say the video was fake, delete it from the chat room, and we'll never get cleaned up. Late at night, we sat with Camille at my house and discussed what we had seen. I asked Camille to wait to publish the video. She wouldn't listen. Eventually, we had a fight and Camille went home. Tired, I collapsed on my bed and fell asleep. In the morning, my phone woke me up. The messages were beeping one after another. Opening the chat room, I was stunned. Yesterday's video was uploaded. I dialed Camille, but there was no answer. The school was in a tizzy. Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Kindle were being interviewed behind closed doors. The police, the press, the pupils all crowded into the corridors of the school. What have you done? I grabbed the arm of a pleased Camilla.
We did it together. Serves them right.
A month passed. Both the principal and the teacher were fired. The story made so much noise that our school is being scrutinized. I've been homeschooled. I can't go to school. I can't communicate with Camille. She stole that video from me and posted it in a chat room without my knowledge. Should I have gone public with that story? I don't know. On the bright side, now Mrs. Kindle will think twice about shaming any of her students. That's if she's allowed to teach. The principal's facing jail time for overstepping her authority, but that doesn't make me feel any better. How do you feel about it? What would you do if you were me? Let's discuss it in the comments.
So, I'll repeat biology. A cell is the smallest structure capable of self-reproduction. Oh no, they're arguing again. I can't take this nightmare anymore. Hi, do your parents fight as much as mine do? I'm Rebecca, and I can't take all their fighting anymore. Morally, it's unbearable. I've been feeling disgusting lately. It's horrible. And it's because my parents have declared war on each other. And they're using me in their revenge. You subscribe to the channel, and I'll tell you how crazy things happen at home. You'll be horrified. You know, when I look at my parents, I realize I don't want to get married. That's for sure. Why should I? Candy bouquet period of relationship flies by very quickly, and then begin gray everyday life, which ends with scandals and scolding. Who's all this happiness for? In my parents' case, that's exactly how it is. I grew up and noticed how my parents eventually stopped kissing, hugging each other, became indifferent neighbors, and soon real enemies. I feel like they hate each other. I thought it was over when they filed for divorce. I stayed with my mom and everything was fine. My mom and I got along well, shared secrets, became friends, but not until I accidentally brought up my dad. That's when the horror began. Then it was as if something possessed my mom. Her eyes began to glisten feverishly, her nostrils flared, and she turned into a real fury.
Why are you talking about him again? Your father ruined my whole life. He took my youth.
And so she could wail endlessly, complaining about her horrible life. But suddenly my mom got a promotion at work, and she had to go on a business trip to another country. And I have school here, so I went to live with my father. Not bad, considering that my dad was less annoyed with me about my grades and gave me more money for pocket money. But as soon as I mentioned the name of his ex-wife, that is, my mom, he turned into a monster. Screaming, yelling, muttering, whining, remembering all the sorrows of family life. In a word, a complete crap. But I noticed that even if I avoided talking about Mom, Dad was still looking for reasons to pick on something. It's like, it makes him feel good. I realized that each of them enjoys poisoning the other's life. What am I supposed to do about it? Their war continued in court as they began to share custody of me, but as soon as their eyes met in the courtroom, that was it. The war was starting. The windows shook from their loud shouting, and the judge ran out of the room. It was so unbearable. In the end, only the guards calmed them down. And because of their inadequate behavior, they were placed under house arrest, and I was placed in a shelter. I spent 2 months in a horrible institution. And I was mad at my parents. Why couldn't they behave properly? Why didn't they ever visit me at the orphanage? And then my mom showed up like nothing had happened. Daughter, we've made an arrangement with your father. You'll live with me on weekdays and spend the weekends at his place.
And Mom kissed my nose happily. I thought it would finally stop, but I was wrong. My parents didn't want to see each other, so every Friday I drove across town to see my dad, and then back to my mom's on Monday. My dad's neighborhood was a bit of a mess, not very prosperous. One night, 2 blocks from my dad's house, I was accosted by a mugger. He came out of a dark alley, my hands, and disappeared into the night. I was so scared. I took the first bus I could find and went home to my mom. I told her everything, and she started blaming my father for everything. Mom was pacing the room, rubbing her hands together, and I was willing to bet anything that she was happy? Yes, like she'd found another reason to scold my father. I was beginning to think that Mom had set up the whole thing to ruin my weekend, because Dad and I were going to an amusement park. And now I'd be home for 2 days and listen to what a bad father I had. What awaited me next was an unrivaled show. For hours, Mom yelled at Dad on the phone, telling him how our daughter, that's me, had almost died. Mom was certainly overreacting, because of a burglar. But as it turned out, that was just the flowers. Next, a really big problem awaited me. I'm really into dancing, modern dances. I've been doing it for a few years. We have a great group at school. We constantly take part in different competitions and can boast a lot of awards.
And now, out of the blue, we're going to an international competition. Can you believe it? In sunny Spain. And that's no joke. The endless, tedious training began. Every day. No days off. We had to learn some complicated dances to impress the jury. 2 months of preparation flew by. My mom even took a vacation to support me. Our team and I were determined only to win. And here we are at the airport. Noise, commotion, nervousness. Almost the entire team had checked in. I was the last one. In my mind, I was already sitting in the cabin, but something was wrong. The stewardess checked my documents, then called someone. It turned out that my father had issued a ban on my travel abroad. It was his way of getting back at my mom. He knew exactly how I was preparing, and how supportive my mom was, and because of his whim, I stayed home. We called him from the airport, but in vain. Mom was furious, and as it turned out, she was preparing a new plan of revenge against my father. While still living together, Mom and Dad were always fighting over my lessons. Dad was convinced he was brilliant at math, and he always helped me with it. Maybe that's why it was so easy for me. And Dad bragged in front of everyone that it was his merit. Mom would turn pale and boil over with anger at this point. So, I had a college entrance exam in math. I spent several hours solving the hardest problems and examples. I walked out of there confident that I had gotten it right. Mom? What are you doing here? I ran into my mom in the lobby of the college where I'd just taken my math test. I came to cheer you on, daughter. But a little late. Sorry. I laughed, hugged my mom, and we went to drink cocoa at the nearest cafe. Then I forgot about it. I remembered a week later when I received the results of the entrance exam. I was horrified. Not a single correct answer. I cried all night long. How could I do that? Dad was so upset, he wouldn't talk to me at all. And Mom, she was so calm. I couldn't believe it, so I went to the college. I demanded to see my work. And what do you think? That paper wasn't mine. It wasn't my handwriting. It wasn't my answers. It was a mess. Who would do that? And why was Mom acting so calm the whole time? Did she do it just to spite my father? After all, she's been savoring my failing the exam for a long time, blaming it on my dad. And then by chance, I came across a psychologist's videos on YouTube. She specialized in family therapy, and especially in divorce and its consequences. In one of her cases, she told how parents took revenge on each other through their child. And I was struck by lightning. That's my case. All the puzzles were put together in one ugly picture. How adults are looking for any reason to hurt each other, and it's their child who suffers for it. I cried all night, because I can't change anything. The scarf incident, after which I had to call an ambulance for my dad, didn't even surprise me. And the scarf my mom put around my neck when she walked me to my dad's. It was beautiful, big, but as it turned out, it was covered in the hair of the neighbor's cat, and my dad's terribly allergic to cats. And as soon as I appeared on the doorstep of his house, Dad started sneezing terribly. Then his eyes got red, he had trouble breathing, and we spent the night in the hospital, where he was injected with allergy shots. Mom, stop laughing! It's not funny! Dad could have died! I tried to calm my mom, who laughed until tears when I told her about the ambulance, shots, and Dad's puffy eyes. And Mom was happy about her next little victory. Daddy soon got his revenge. A week later, a magnificent cake was delivered to Mommy. Unsuspecting, she ate almost half of it in one sitting. And then she was in bed for 24 hours with terrible pains. The cake was expired. I was mad at both of them. I had to take the blame for everything all the time. I had already decided to move in with my grandmother so I could live in peace until I finished school. But suddenly, the hatchet was buried deep. There was silence for weeks. Mom was up to her ears in work. Dad enjoyed spending weekends with me. Is that so? Does that really happen? It's been quiet for a few weeks now. As usual, I came home after school, and I heard someone laughing from the living room. A man's laugh. Well, my mom finally has someone. Whew! She'll forget about Dad and this craziness will be over. Joyfully ran through my head. I looked into the living room and, stunned. On the couch, gently hugging Mom around the waist, was Dad. He was whispering something in Mom's ear, and she was giggling back. Seeing my surprised face, Mom winked at me.
Daughter, we made up, and we will live together again.
That's great news. Then Dad loudly smacked Mom on the nose, and they both laughed loudly. It looked like they were going on a second honeymoon. And the thought was scary. I knew it would be a couple weeks after their stormy reconciliation, and they'd start fighting again. Harder, more aggressive, and I'd have to clean up the mess again. And I'm so tired of it. I don't know what to do. Maybe I should move in with my grandmother? But those two can kill each other if they're not stopped in time. What would you do? Would you stay? Right. If you have any thoughts, in the comments, we'll discuss. Oh, girls, you won't believe this. I'm at the police station right now. How about that? Maybe you think I got caught shoplifting? Maybe I stole a purse? Or I've been zealously skipping school, and I'm in here? No, 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 no. It's much more interesting than that. And just as interesting are all the stories on the channel. So you subscribe and I'll give you the details. We got a deal? Hi, my name is Fee, and only my mom calls me Fiona as an adult. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only adult in this family. I'm not kidding. My dad escaped from that nut house a few years ago, and it was all about Mom, who was constantly searching for herself, listening to webinars, going on retreats, taking a CSIS, and bugging Dad.
Don't touch my personal boundaries. This is my space.
That's what she kept telling Dad, and one day all the space in the house was just Mom's. I exhaled, thinking she'd calm down now. But no way! Now she started looking for a new love. One day I came home and saw that my mom had turned the living room into a gym. Kettlebells, pancakes, treadmill, and a bunch of other sports equipment. Mom? What is that? Fiona, I have a surprise for you. I thought she organized these activities for me, but my mom dumbfounded me.
I have a boyfriend. His name is Arnold, and he's a bodybuilder. And now I want to be fit and trim, too. We're going on a healthy diet.
We had tuna salad for a week. All this time, Mom tried to run, jump, squat, but Arnold could not withstand her pressure and simply stopped answering the phone. Mom didn't grieve for long. After hanging out with a friend in a night bar, she managed to pick up some rock musician. And so the weights and pancakes were replaced by a drum set, an electric guitar, and my headache. It was awful. Mom was learning to play the drums to surprise Kurt. That was her new boyfriend's name. The house was so noisy at night, I started doing my homework in the school library. And then I moved in with my best friend Kira for a couple days. My mom didn't even notice it. But when I ran in a week later to get a change of clothes, the house was suspiciously quiet and empty. Mom was sitting in the bedroom, finishing a huge bucket of ice cream. When she saw me, she sobbed loudly.
Fiona, he ran away from me with some biker girl. Can you believe it? How am I supposed to live without him?
I stroked her head for a long time, consoling her that Kurt is not the end of the world. And surely there will be someone who will really love Mom. It was quiet for a few days. Mom went to work. She diligently cooked dinner at home. I was quietly rejoicing. Until one night, late in the evening, eating second portion of pasta, I jumped up in my chair from a loud rumble outside the window.
Oh, it's for me. Fiona, don't wait up for me tonight. Bye-bye.
And a minute later, I heard a motor start up outside, and something huge with headlights the size of a spotlight came tumbling out of our yard and into the street. Miracles don't happen, I said bitterly out loud. Wrote to Kira that my mom had gone to pieces again and plopped down on the bed and fell asleep. All the next day at school, I thought about who was that new mysterious admirer. At home, I was in for a surprise. My mom had time to clean, do the laundry, and even make soup. And herself with a new hairstyle and bright makeup all looked at the clock. I saw huge tire tracks on our lawn this morning, Mom. Who's your new hero?
Oh, daughter. Things are going to be different now. No one can leave me this time. Well, he can, but I have a backup in case he does.
And Mom winked at me. Another spoonful of soup froze halfway on its way to my mouth. What did Mom come up with this time? But suddenly, her cell phone vibrated, and Mom, winking at herself in the mirror, scorched out into the street. And there near the gate stood a brand new, beautiful Tesla, which, as soon as Mom jumped inside, silently disappeared around the corner. So, it turns out that yesterday there was another car, definitely not Tesla, because its engine is not hurt at all, and yesterday it was as if at least a bulldozer came into our yard. Listen, maybe Mom has not one, but two suitors? My friend came up with a crazy theory when I visited her that evening and told her about what was going on at my house. That sentence made a donut stick in my throat. Mom can't deal with one thing, and you say 2. No, there's got to be another explanation, but how far I was from the truth. The next day, I came home in the evening. I did my homework at Kira's, but I decided to sleep at home. My girlfriend's parents were already looking at me askew. I slept over too often. A few steps away from the house, I froze on the spot, and my heart sank into my heels. There was a police car outside the house, and the blinkers, they were on. Oh no, something's wrong. Mom! A minute later, I kicked the front door almost like a ninja and flew into the living room. 2 pairs of eyes stared at me in surprise. My mom's black, arrow-lined, surprised eyes, and the big and round man's next to her. Mom, are you okay? Why is there a police car outside our house? What happened?
It's my work car. I was rushing to Mimi's for dinner and I forgot to turn off the sirens. I'll fix it now.
And he hurried outside. Mom, can you explain what's going on?
Ted is a great guy. Yeah, he's a cop. But he even promised me a ride in his car with his blinkers on. Can you believe it? Isn't that fun?
What's going on? I didn't know if Mom was just messing with me or if she was being serious. I waved goodbye and went upstairs. I'm sick of everything. In the morning, I was awakened by the doorbell. On the threshold stood a young guy, diligently dressed. A nice, chesty voice asked,
Hi, is Mimi home?
Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a parked Tesla by the gate. Yeah, so that's who Mom jumped in the car with the other day. Mom's not... I don't know where she is. What about you?
Mateo, your mom and I are dating.
Glancing at my school backpack packed in the hallway, the guy nodded.
Can I give you a ride to school? It's no problem for me.
I thought, why not? My friends at school would be dying to know who the cute guy was who drove me. While we were driving, Mateo told me that he had his own beauty salon in town, and he was a hairstylist. That's how he and my mom met. Mom decided to make a dramatic image change, but Mateo stopped her by inviting her to dinner.
Your mom's so cute and funny. Oh, I'm running out of car power. Do you mind if we stop by to recharge? About 15 minutes, no more.
I nodded, and a couple minutes later, Mateo was already parked outside the charging station. He ran to the store for coffee, and I was on my phone. Suddenly, the car door opened abruptly, and a minute later, we were speeding away. Did you change your mind about charging? I looked up and froze. There was another man in the driver's seat. I was shocked. Who are you?
Who are you? Shit, I don't want any passengers. Now sit tight until I get out of town.
And he increased the speed. My heart was racing. I couldn't believe this was happening to me. This asshole decided to steal Mateo's car. What's going to happen to me now? I squeezed my eyes shut, convincing myself that it was just a stupid dream. Nothing more.
Shit, shit, shit!
The carjacker cursed loudly, and I realized why. We had a police car on our tail, and on the loudspeaker, they were dictating a phrase from a militant movie. Stop immediately. Repeat, stop immediately. That was epic. Realizing that he had been spotted, the grief-stricken hijacker clung to the curb. A minute later, the Tesla was approached by, Ted? It's you! It's so good to see you! I threw myself at my mom's lover, who yesterday seemed like a boring nerd. The Tesla hijacker opened his mouth in surprise, and Ted stared at me suspiciously.
What are you doing here? Why aren't you in school?
Well, I explained to Ted why it was like this, already at the police station. He took the Tesla hijacker there, called my mom, and told her to wait in his office. I looked at the numerous diplomas on the wall and thought, I have to tell my mom to leave Mateo and his Tesla and go out with Ted. He's definitely a reliable man. And then I heard some noise in the hallway. When I looked out, I was speechless. Mom was standing in the hallway. Ted, Mateo, and the Tesla hijacker were standing in a circle around her.
Mimi, what does that mean?
Yes, would you please explain?
Did you just date all of us at the same time?
Mom looked from one angry man to another in confusion. I'm so screwed. Mom broke all records. Having an affair with 3 at the same time. That's a level, of course. A stylist, a gangster, a policeman, Mom knows how to choose. When Mom saw me, she ran up and grabbed my hand and dragged me towards the exit.
Fiona, I'm so glad you're okay. Let's hurry home.
I looked back at the men behind me.
Screw them. They're all so toxic. Let's get out of here.
And we hurried home. For a couple days, my mom got calls from Ted. He suggested we forget the whole thing and start over, but Mom started acting like a resentful princess, and Ted got nothing. A week later, Mom announced we were moving to another city, and we'd be starting a new life there. Considering the fact that this was the 4th time we were starting a new life in this town, I had little faith that things would be any different now. It's hard with my mom, but it's still fun. So I'm packing my bags. Also, but it's a secret, okay? We started texting with Mateo, the stylist on the Tesla. He's so cool, and maybe it'll turn into something more interesting. And then I'll tell you another story, but hopefully with a happier ending. That's the news, my dears. And if you liked my story, I'm waiting for likes and feedback in the comments. Bye!